questions? That's all I really want to say. Let me ask you guys a question. I'll introduce myself here in a second. How many of you think fairness is a good thing? Fairness. It's kind of hard to argue with it, isn't it? It's not a fair question. Maybe, Bruce. So, I mean, fairness in the sporting event, right? The umps or the refs should be making fair calls. Fairness at work. You have a fair opportunity for that promotion, or you should be compensated fairly, right? So, how many of you would agree that fairness is a good thing? How about in marriage? Is fairness a good thing in marriage? What do you think? Because our idea of fairness is what we've got. Right? Let me ask you this question. I mean, isn't fairness one of those things that's hard to argue? It's like apple pie or the 4th of July. How do you argue with that? But is fairness a good thing in marriage? Let me ask you this. How do you know if your marriage is fair? How do you know? You have to do what? You have to keep score. If you're not keeping score, how do you know if it's fair? You can't. Is keeping score in marriage a good idea? I'm going to tell you, I think that's a real recipe for a disastrous marriage, keeping score. So if I had PowerPoint, you'd see the word fairness up there, and there's a transition that sort of blows it up, like it got hit by a shotgun and just blows up. So I'm going to talk this morning on marriage, but I'm going to tell you what your wife wishes you knew about women and what she wishes you knew about her. And nothing I say, gentlemen, is going to be fair. Nothing. Because she doesn't think the way you do. My wife doesn't think the way I do. It makes no sense to me a good part of the time. Let me ask you a question. How many of you would be willing to do things that aren't fair, they're not fair to you, if you could have a better marriage? If that meant you could have a better marriage, would you be willing to do it anyway? I'm going to tell you, you can have a better marriage if you'll get over it. Like, I need to get over it. I need to get over the fact that my wife doesn't think like I do. And she's never going to think like I do. In fact, she's not supposed to think like I do. She's designed by God not to think like I do. That's exactly who said that. You're right. Because if I had another person thinking just like me, what good is that do? Really? Now, I want to show you guys this book before I forget. This is a book called Everything Men Know About Women. It's pretty thin. It's pretty thin. It's $5 or $6 on Amazon. I want to encourage all of you to get this book. I have found more truth in this book than most things that I've had on marriage. And I'm going to show you why. You ready? I want you to look real carefully at this book. This is seriously like one of my favorite books. Because I just think it's so hilarious. But more than that, it is so true. It is so true. Now, as you know, I'm always trying to pack like, I don't know, 2 hours worth of stuff into 30 minutes, something like that. So I need you guys to work with me today. Chris, can I get you to help me out in pain? These are Bible verses. Since we don't have PowerPoint, I'm going to ask Chris to pass those out. If you don't want to read a Bible verse, just don't take one. It's okay. But if you get one and you keep it, I need you to look at what the reference is. And I need you to be paying attention so that when I call that reference, you can read it. And I'm going to need you to read it. You guys with me on that? Because I don't have time to wait for someone to find their reference. Now, if it takes a little too long, it's okay. I'll just give you the essence of the verse. I'm going to let you guys get those sheets of paper. I think we might leave the rest of those with somebody sort of toward the back. So in case someone else comes in, they can like hand one off to you guys. I don't know. I can try to give the essence of it. Is that Kyle Jones back there? Maybe I might do. I see so many. I cannot tell you guys how good it is to be here in person. Can I get an amen? I'm not like a guy that asks for amens, but like I think it is just. I love being able to see all of you in person. All right, so we're going to work through these sheets. And again, I'm going to tell you some things that aren't fair. How many of you wish you had more influence over your wife? I mean, I'm willing to raise my hand. My wife's not here. I'm saying if I can raise my hand, right? How many of you wish you had more influence over her? Let me tell you something. You can, and you used to. You had that influence when you were dating. You've forgotten how to use it. And I've forgotten how to use it. Now I just want to be right. I actually think I am right most of the time. So that's kind of what drives me way too much of the time. And it's not, that doesn't make for a great marriage. It really doesn't. So, buckle your seatbelts because we're gonna get unfair. We're gonna get real unfair in a hurry. Number one, on the sheet of paper. Guys, when you were dating, you creatively pursued and romanced your wife, your fiancée, the woman who became your wife. This gave her confidence that you were seriously in love with and committed to her. Most of us stopped pursuing our wives not long after we were married, and as a result, and even though you don't understand this, she worries regularly about whether you love and are committed to her. She needs you to affirm this daily or more often. Now, we men, I was very reassured when I was in my 30s to find out I was not the only guy that worried almost all the time about getting fired. Like I wasn't obsessed with it, but it was just this nagging thought in the back of my mind. Like I'm one medium screw up or two little ones away from getting fired. And I still wrestle with that, and it's completely irrational. Like Greg, you know who I work for, it's completely irrational that I still think about that, but it's just a recurring thought. When I found out that 80% of guys struggle with that, that was reassuring to me. Your wife's version of that is that you're going to fire her. That's what she worries about. She doesn't worry about losing her job if she works. She worries that your husband, you, are going to fire her. And she needs to hear from you every day, or several times a day, that you love her. I'd love to say every phone call, but we don't talk on the phone anymore. Text her. Send her one of those cute Bitmojis that has you, your image with the hearts and flowers and all that kind of stuff. Make sure she hears from you several times a day that you love her and you're committed to her. Who's got Luke 6:45? Go ahead.
Good man brings good things out of the good stored up in his heart. An evil man brings evil things out of the evil stored up in his heart. The mouth speaks what the heart is full of.
Okay, so basically that verse says, we speak what's in our heart. How many of you have stuff you love about your wives? I wish I was seeing a whole lot more hands up there. Maybe you didn't hear me. How many of you have stuff you love about your wives? Okay, say it. That's all this verse is about. Say it. Let it come out of your lips. You need to hear that stuff that you're thinking. I was taking a walk one day, this past week. I was walking in the early mornings again, and I came back home and I could see a little window. My wife loves to rock and rock. And sometimes she's not up yet when I get back. But I came around the corner, this little window, as I'm coming up to the garage, I could see she was rocking, and it just made it fun. And it was one of those rare times that I remembered to say it. When I came in, I said, I want you to know that when I come around the corner and I see you through that little window rocking, it just makes me smile. It just makes me smile. That's all I said to her. Now, 9 times out of 10, I don't think to do that. But that one time I did. Say it. The stuff that you really appreciate about your wife, the stuff you love about her, let it come out of your lips. Who's got 1 John 3:18? Go ahead, Daryl.
Dear children, let us not love with words or speech, but with actions and in truth.
So it's also doing it, right? It's not just saying it, it's also doing it. It's showing your wife that you love her, that you are committed to her. Number 2, when you were dating, you were intently interested in everything she had to say. Knowing you're interested enough to listen to her without interruptions, like your smartphone or laptop or sports on TV, will go a long way. This got James 1:19 and 20. Before this verse is read, this is one of 3 verses I would call my life verses. And this verse is, I think, one of the most practical life verses in all of the Bible. So who's got this one? Go ahead.
My dear brothers, notice, everyone be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry, because human anger does not produce righteousness without time.
This is really simple, guys. Quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger. When the kids do something or your wife does something, what do we typically do first? We get mad. We get angry. It's as backwards from what that verse says, is what we do. We get mad first, and then what do? We start talking a lot, and in a raised voice, and a higher amplitude, and everything else. And how much listening are we doing? Just about zero, right? Just about zero. James is in our face with this. We need to be quick to listen. We need to pay attention, key in, listen, be slow to speak, and even slower to anger. Number 3, your wife does not need you to fix the problem yet. In fact, what you don't understand, and guys, I don't either, is that her feelings are the problem. Whatever the problem is she's talking about, that's not the problem. How she feels about it is her problem. That's what she needs you to understand. I'm terrible at this. But what do we guys want to do? We want to solve it. We want to fix it. It's what we do. We fix things. They don't want us to jump in and fix it. They want to be understood. When's the last time you had a guy say to you, I just want to be understood? Like you say, right to this therapy office, right? Our wives want to be understood. It's what they need from us. So, her feeling really, she still wants to be understood. She may want your help to fix it later, and it's okay to ask. It's okay to ask. Do you want my help with this, the car repair that didn't work, or do you want to just talk about it? Because I'm great at just listening and understanding how you feel. I'll tell you what, that'll go a tremendous long way. Who's got First Peter?
Your husbands in the same way, live with your wives in an understanding way. As a fellow leader, the woman, with her honor as a fellow heir of the grace of life. But your prayers will not be
live with your wives in an understanding way. Peter was like, talk about a guy who wanted to fix things, right? He was the guy that jumped into it. Here's Peter telling us that he's learned that we need with our wives in an understanding way. Number 4, you are never more attractive to your wife than when you help with the house. Make the bed, load or unload the dishwasher, get your clothes all the way into the hamper, run the washer, fold the clean clothes, or heaven forbid, clean the toilet. Gentlemen, you're getting sexier by the second. If your wife works full-time or close, sharing the housework is nowhere near an option. Now, I've been looking for this for a while. I ran out of time last night. But where's the verse where Jesus said, if you meet me halfway, I'll meet you halfway? I know it's in there. I Googled it. Does anyone remember? It's got to be one of the 4 Gospels, right? You know why none of us can remember where it is? Here's why. Are you ready? That's why it's not in there. Jesus never said anything like that. And Jesus didn't do that. He met us all the way with all our problems, all our baggage, all our issues, all our sin. He meets us all the way where we are. He never said we meet halfway. There's no meeting Jesus halfway. We don't have to go anywhere. All we have to do is continue to give. That's what our wives need us to do. So it's not do half of this and half of that. Now, this, by the way, gentlemen, is half of the talk. I'm going to give you a statement of love. I love speaking. I love doing stuff like this. I never charge anything for it. I have a great job that pays all the bills. This is my heart's passion, to doing stuff like this. This talk this morning is half of a talk on marriage. The half that I speak to the women is very different from what you're doing. You would like that half a lot better, believe me. I'm not comfortable with that. If any of you has a small group or something that you'd like me to come and speak, I have like 20 different things I speak on. This is one. Come up and see me afterwards, and I'll give you a card, and we can get in contact after. But for what I would tell your wives about housework is very different. You don't get to hear that today. You don't need to hear that from me. What you need to hear from me is you are more attractive to your wife when you help with the housework. If you want to have a better marriage, forget what's there and help her with the housework. Period. She appreciates you, number 5, taking the kids and giving her a break. She's dealt with baby and kid talk all day. And this lets her know you understand and are there for her. And I see a lot of guys that are my age or even older. So I know not all of us have young kids at home anymore, but a lot of you guys do. Or a lot of you guys are going to, which is great. So she's dealt with it all day. And she needs to know that you're going to take them off her hands if she needs a break. Now again, what I would say to your wives is different. That's not for you this morning. What you need to know is she's ready for a break when you get home. Doesn't seem fair. Doesn't matter. You want a better marriage? Take the kids. You know what I used to do when I was a young dad and I was tired and our kids were little? I would just get home, I would literally lay on my back on the floor on the carpet in the living room and let them climb all over me. I loved it. I didn't really have to do anything. They were giggling, I was tickling them. I mean, that's all it took. I just lay down and they were climbing all over me. Just do that. If you don't have energy to go run around outside, lay down and let them climb all over you. I love it. Was Jesus a busy guy? Did a lot of people want a little piece of Jesus? Were there people clamoring to just touch him, to be in his presence? Who's got Matthew 19:14? Okay.
Jesus said, let the little children come to me and do not hinder them, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these.
So remember the disciples said, he's too important, doesn't have time for you, go away. He says, stop that, don't do that, let him come to me. Jesus was a busy guy, running at these kids like his biological children. None of them were. He didn't have any biological children. But he had time for all these kids. If Jesus had time for those kids and he was a busy guy, you've got time for your kids. You've got time for your kids. Let them crawl all over you. Your wife's having, take it when you get home. Number 6, your wife has learned that you are visual, excuse me, and she cannot measure up to the images that you see. She needs to know that you find her attractive and beautiful inside and out, and that you only have eyes for her. I'm going to read the Song of Solomon passage because I'm going to pause a couple of times. But this is a really interesting passage. Song of Solomon is a book of the Bible that's about sexuality. That's what it's about. And in chapter 1, verses 5 and 6, we hear, in this particular passage, we hear from the woman. It's a dialogue between a woman and a man who are lovers, and then God, who blesses their sexuality, their union. And I want you to hear what the woman says. Dark am I, yet lovely, daughters of Jerusalem, dark like the tents of Kedar, like the 10 curtains of Solomon. Now, in our culture, darkness is good. We have candles, so we can go get dark. Right? Like milky white is not attractive. You don't see billboards and ads with milky white women. You see bronze would be a term. I don't know if that's still a term or not, but that's what comes to my mind. Bronze, the bronze female body. That's attractive to us. She says she's dark. Sounds good. Listen to what she says next. Do not stare at me because I'm dark, because I'm darkened by the sun. Wow, do not stare at me. My mother's sons were angry with me and made me take care of the vineyards. My own vineyard, her body, I had to neglect. In this culture, darkness was a sign of poverty. It was a sign of someone low on the totem pole who had to work outside to feed himself. White milky skin was the rich. That was the attractive side because they were inside. They weren't darkened by the sun. This woman, who is featured in the only book of the Bible dedicated to sexuality, is very self-conscious of her body image. And she says, don't stare at me because I'm dark. Your wife knows she can't measure up to all those bronzed billboards, images on the internet, images in stores, images online, all that. She knows she doesn't measure up to that. She needs to know that you find her attractive and beautiful inside and out, and you only have eyes for her. So that's that one. Who's got Job 31:1?
I made a covenant with my eyes not to look lustfully at young woman.
Pretty much speaks for itself. We'll get to another related verse here in a little bit. Number 7, your wife can enjoy sex. I know this probably sounds like it's worded funny, especially to you younger guys. The time is coming, guys, when it's going to seem like she just doesn't want to have sex anymore. She can enjoy sex. But when you were first married, spontaneity probably worked really well. Now, a little anticipation time will allow her to mentally prepare for lovemaking and be more responsive. And it's okay, you know what, she's had little hands. I know, again, some of you guys are like mine, or grandparents like me. Your wife, if you've got young kids, she's had little hands all over her all day. She's not sure she wants her man-sized hands all over her at night. She needs a little time to think about that and get ready for that, and process that. It's not that she doesn't love you. It's not that she's totally disinterested, but her life has changed drastically since you first got married. And who's got 1 Corinthians 7? I've got that one too. But this is the go-to passage on sexuality in the New Testament in marriage. is 1 Corinthians 7, 2-5. I'm only going to read 2-4. Since sexual immorality is occurring, Paul writes, and by the way, is Paul married? Paul was single. He says so. He says so in one of his letters. He says, I wish you were all single like I am, but he knows that everyone's called to be single. So he gives us a prescription for sexuality in marriage. Since sexual immorality is occurring, each man should have sexual relations with his own wife. Now you guys can stop right there and paste that on the refrigerator if you want. Actually, that's probably not a very good idea. What's that, Bruce? Yeah, there you go. Yeah, just send it 1 Corinthians 7, 2. Just send that in a text message. I don't know. I think that's not such a good idea. You don't have to blame it on me. Tell them stop talking about it. I think it's a good idea. Verse 3, the husband should fulfill his marital duty to his wife, and likewise the wife to her husband. That's talking about sexual pleasure. The husband should fulfill his wife, and likewise the wife should. Number 2, on this point B, is hygiene. If you've been changing the oil in the car, you've been mowing the lawn, you smell like gasoline and grass clippings. You put chlorine in the pool, you smell like bleach. You've been playing racquetball over at the club, and you smell like men's BO, which, I mean, I've taught men's classes. You step out of the room for a few minutes, come back in, you'll know what men's BO smells like. That's not a turn on for her. None of that's a turn on for her. So if you stumble yourself up somehow during the evening with chemicals or working on the car or mowing the lawn, clean yourself up, take a shower. It may not be your routine to not take a shower. She's going to be totally turned off by that kind of stuff. That is not perfume her. So clean yourself up, get your hygiene. Next page. Oh, I'm sorry. Is there one more verse on there? No, we did that one. Okay. Next page, number 8. In your wife's mind, everything, including making love, is connected to everything else. Without your affirmation, without all the stuff we talked about on the first page, it's really hard for her to make sex anything more than a duty to you. She needs the emotional relationship. Men, by and large, and I think I've learned that we're not totally, this is not completely true. Like, we're not only about sex, but we're much more interested in sex. And we can process sexuality with a much wider range of emotional issues than our wives need. Our wives need to feel very confident, very comfortable, and very affirmed in our relationship to be able to respond sexually. And that's what we want them to be able to do, is respond sexually. They need that confidence. Who's got Genesis 1:26?
Then God said, let us make mankind in our likeness. So God created mankind in his own image. The image of God, he created male and female. He created.
Okay, are men and women different? We're very different. We're both created in God's image. Right? So we're not created in God's image and our lives aren't. It's not that we are and they're not. We're both. Which means we're supposed to be different. And without both of us together, we don't reflect the full image of God. It takes both male and female to completely reflect the full image of God. And so we're different. We're different literally by design. Who's got Genesis 1:27? Was that on yours, Bruce?
Yeah.
Okay, so who's got Genesis 2:18?
The Lord God said, it is not good for the man to be alone. I will make a helper who is just like her.
Okay, thank you, David. And I pick and choose my translation. So that translation is one called the New International Reader's Version. And I really like that one. Usually it says suitable. When I think suitable, I think like, yeah, it's a good fit. That translation, I think, is better. A helper who is just right for you. Like a woman is just right for us. I think that, to me, that evokes what God has done so much better than just saying suitable. Like, she's perfect for us. She's complement. She fits physically, emotionally, intuitively, everything. Spiritually, she fits where we're devoid, where we're deficient. She fills in those gaps. So we need to understand that. Number 9, your wife needs physical touch just for her without needing sex. You likely used to do this more. Like, you probably used to hold hands with her, put your arm around her, put your hand on her knee, like all the time when you were dating. And now, generally speaking, most of us don't do that unless we're interested in sexuality. Then we start getting all lovey-dovey. You know what? Your wife is onto you. She's onto you. She knows what that means. Like, she doesn't even want you to hold her hand anymore because she knows there's an agenda there. She needs you to put your arm around her, hold her hand, and put your hand on her knee when nothing's going to happen. She needs to know that you're interested in touch for the sake of touch for her. She needs to know that. So you're currently, your not so good agenda is not as conspicuous as you think, or Peter is mine. 1 Peter 3:7. Live with your wives in understanding ways. We'll just say that. It's live with your wives in understanding ways. They need that. They need that from you. It's true, number 10, that financial security and provision are important to her, and sloth or laziness is a real turnaround. But your relationship is far more important. Even more than financial security, she really needs to know that you are and will be there for her and your kids. She'll even trade some income in most cases for more of your presence and your happiness. You're working 60 hours a week. She'd rather you made 20% less in most cases, and you were home. If you come home and your mind is full of stuff from work that you're worried about, wrestling with, trying to figure out, she'd rather you made 20% less and didn't have that. You were really there when you were there. You with me? She'd rather that you were present, not just physically, but you were emotionally, mentally, spiritually connected with her. Most, I can't speak for your wife in particular, I want to explain what we're going to do. You're going to have homework at the end of this. But most of your wives will trade some income for more of your physical presence, just being there, and more of your mental presence, not being so saddled with all the stuff, all the baggage. Ephesians 5, 25 and 28.
Husbands, love your wives, just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. In this way, husbands ought to love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself.
Thank you. And, you know, there's two words in there that I think define that passage. Husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church. They're two little words. Just as. Love your wives just as Christ loved the church. Does that mean 90% of the way? That means 100% of the way. Right? Paul leaves no room. There's no room for a gap the way he holds the standard. Now, I'm going to say all of us know we can't do that. But we need to not use that as an excuse. I know I can't do that. Doesn't mean I should settle for 90%. I'm not even, I'm probably not anywhere close to 90%. But even if I think I am, I shouldn't settle for that. Right? Just as, what did Christ do? I'm going to go back to meet me halfway. Did he meet us halfway? No. He met us all the way. We need to meet our wives all the way. Is that fair? No. Does it matter? No. Paul's telling us, be unfair in favor of your wife. Christ was unfairly reached out to us at great personal cost, the most personal cost. We can't even comprehend. He's telling us, you reach out to your wife in the same way. Forget fairness, you reach all the way out to your wife. Number 11, inside your woman. Inside your woman, even if she's gray-haired and all wrinkled up. You know, whatever her state is at this point in life, inside that woman that you have is a little girl who wants to be beautiful, desirable, loved, and known by her man. She wants to be known. I don't really understand this because I think I'm okay if I'm not fully known. It's probably better if I'm not fully known. Your wife wants to be fully known, and despite being fully known, she wants to be loved, desirable, and beautiful to you. That's what she craves at her core. Hopefully, her man initially was her dad. Hopefully it was. Sadly, for many, many of our lives, their daddies were not the dads we would hope that they would have been, that our wives needed for them to be. Hopefully that you are to your daughters. But now, either way, it's you, period. So be there for her in this way. We won't read it again, but Ephesians 5:25. Love your wives just as Christ loved the church. Be there for them. Now, our discussion can't be complete without acknowledging that way too many men dabble with pornography or even make it a regular habit. I want to make 2 quick points about this. A, when we dabble in pornography, it makes our sexual relationship much more difficult for us. Any guy that is regularly looking at or even just sporadically looking at images online, when you are making love to your flesh and blood, your warm-blooded woman who's right there with you, and your mind is vacillating back and forth, your ability to perform sexually, your ability to take your wife to the mountaintop, and your ability to reach the mountaintop is severely diminished. And a lot of guys don't know that. They don't understand that. They don't understand that it's hurting their real sexual relationship with their real wife, who's really there with them right there on spot. That's number one. Makes your sexual relationship much more difficult, much more problematic. And number two, especially in the last few years, most of the images of women online are images that are trapped in human sex trafficking. Not only do they not want you, they don't want to be there at all. There's a whole other talk I do on pornography, and I don't really have time to go there. But how many of you have daughters? When you see those images online, I want you to think to yourself, that's somebody's daughter. Now, her daddy may be gone, right? He may not be the daddy she should have had. But she should have had a daddy that cared about her the way you care about your daughters. When you see those images online, I want you to think, you know what, that's somebody's daughter. And even if her daddy's out of the picture, it's God's daughter. That is a woman created in the image of God. She didn't want to be there. She's trapped, almost for sure these days. So you need to just know that. And Joe, we already talked about Matthew. This is one where Jesus says, if a man looks at a woman with lust in his heart, he's already committed adultery in his heart. Jesus blows away like the whole physical thing. I've never physically committed adultery. I couldn't tell you how many times I've committed adultery under this definition. I'm not sure I even know where the line is. Like, where does it actually happen? I don't think it really matters. If I entertain lust, which I'm prone to, I mean, I'm there. I suspect all of us in this room are there in some measure. So Jesus kind of blows away the technical, well, I've never really done it physically. As one woman put it, I want you to read this with me here. My husband smiles at me when he comes home from work and discovers the kids have drawn monsters on my legs with markers. He believes that I'm a better mother, more talented, and more virtuous person than I actually am. His eternal optimism changes me ever so slightly, day after day, into something more beautiful than I'd otherwise be. The fact that I get to live with him over the course of my lifetime is one of the biggest scams I've pulled off. I want you to get this next statement that she makes. I keep waiting for him to wake up, jump over the amount of unwashed clothes, bolt out the door. She's saying, I keep waiting for him to fire me. It's the very first point I made on the other side of the sheet. I keep waiting for him to bolt out. There, I can't see. But he sees even my imperfections as a hero. Over the past 10 years, we both changed. But the one thing that remains constant is my utter and unashamed need of him. That comes from the book For Men Only. I highly recommend that all three of these books that are on there, but For Men Only in particular is where I draw a lot of the material from, the concepts. I flesh out my own words, and I pull Bible verses that I choose into this. Conceptually, that book is really, really good, and it's very, very well funded. I want to ask you guys again, how many of you would be willing to do things that are not fair to you if it meant you could have a better marriage? Now, none of your wives will need all 11 of these things. Every one of your wives will be different, but I'm telling you, these are 11 things that women commonly need. Here's what I want you to do. You're going to take this piece of paper home that you have. You're going to ask your wife, this is dangerous. This is dangerous, but if you have a better marriage, this is a way to get there. Ask her to go through these 11 points, read them carefully, and circle the number of each one that is important to her. If it's important to her, whether she's happy with it or she's not happy with it, ask her to circle each one that is important to her. After she's circled them, have her go back through them again and put a number in the box on the ones that she has circled. Have her put a number in the box for just those. Some of your wives are going to have 5 of these things. Some of them are going to have 8. Some of them are going to have 7. Whatever they are, whatever combination of things is important to your specific wife. Have her write a number in the box. If she thinks it's terrible, she's completely unsatisfied with it in your marriage, she should put a 1. If she's super happy with it, she should put a 5, or whatever the number is in between. The point here is for you to get educated about about which of these things specifically is important to your specific life. And to know the ones that you're getting a 4 or 5 on, don't mess up, don't change those, right? Don't abandon those. Keep doing whatever you're doing on those. The ones you're getting a 1 or 2 on, need to work on those. And here's my other admonishment for you in closing. When she comes back to you with this paper, you have to promise her, and then you have to do this, that you're not going to tell her why she's wrong. Most of us, she says, you never touched me without wanting to go somewhere. Yes, I did. 6 months ago in the movie theater, I put my hand on your knee. That's what we want to do. We want to tell them why they're wrong. We want to tell them why we're really a better guy than they think. Don't do that. That's not the point of this. The point of this is for you to understand what her reality is and her relationship with you. And if you start doing that, she'll clam up and you'll never get the feedback that is so essential for you to understand about your wife. So don't do that. Don't tell her why she's wrong. Don't defend yourself. The only questions you're allowed to ask are to understand. You can say, what would that look like to you for me to touch you more? How does that, what do you mean by that? How can I work on that? That's the only questions you're allowed to ask. Because if you start telling her why she's wrong, that's going to be the end of the conversation. You'll have done more damage to your marriage than improvement at that point. So guys, I still want to encourage you to get this book. It's a great reminder. It's a very quick read. Thank you so much. Again, I cannot tell you how much I love being here where I can see your faces. I love being here in fellowship with you guys. I love the opportunity. Jeremy, thank you so much for just, and you and Frank for allowing me the opportunity. Let me close this part of it with a very short prayer. Heavenly Father, every guy here is here for a reason. I know there's, I'm not sure how many, but some singles here too. They're here for a reason. Even if they're not married, they're here for a reason. And I just pray that every guy in this room, including me, would leave here this morning with exactly what you want us to leave with. Concept, the idea, a point, something that's really shooting on our mind and we can't shake. Whatever it is, an assignment to go talk to our wives and get their feedback, whatever it is, Father, help every one of us to be exactly about your business on this topic over this next few days. And Jesus, thank you for being our creator. Thank you for creating marriage. Thank you for creating us, knowing you have to redeem us in your name. It's in your name, Jesus, that we thank you. We praise your name. Amen.